All right, this video is gonna be a little bit different than what you are used to over on this channel. Usually I'm talking about bass fishing tips of some sort, and I am going to leave you guys with one tip at the very end of this video. But really this isn't gonna be a rant video, but there are just questions that I see pop up a lot on YouTube, or there's comments that I read, and I thought I would just address some of them, some being negative ones, and some not so negative. So I just kind of wanted to talk about a few things. Also, a lot of people always ask, like, why do you have two different channels? Like, you have this channel, I talk about bass fishing tips. I have BassFishingHQ. I also talk about bass fishing. So I'm gonna address that a little bit as well, because there's just some different things that are happening within the YouTube fishing space that all go into it. And maybe I'll start out with that. The thing about YouTube fishing is it's changed a lot over the years. You know, back in the day when you had guys like the Flair and the John B and the whole Guggen squad, when they got into it, the thing is that they were creating content, fishing content, and there wasn't a ton of other people doing it at the time. And so at the time, anyone who liked to fish pretty much watched a lot of their content, because it was like the only new fishing content that we had. Like, I remember back in the day watching ESPN on Saturday mornings, and like that's all I basically had. You could watch, you know, Bassmaster Television. There was a cool other shows that they had for back in the day when they had Bass Saturdays, what they called it. They had Bass Center. They had a couple of other really cool shows. I also like watched saltwater shows with Jose Wahebi, the Spanish Fly. Like, I watched all those things growing up, because that's all that we had as far as content goes back in the day. And so when YouTube came around and you had some of those guys, the Guggen squad early on, starting to make videos, it was new, it was fresh, it was raw, and people liked that. And obviously they grew, and some of them are still doing, actually most of them are doing really, really well. But since then, a lot has changed. Like, there's been a tremendous amount of people that have gotten into YouTube fishing, and definitely YouTube bass fishing. Like, everybody has a channel these days. Like, the biggest reason, it's easy to get a GoPro. You put a GoPro in your boat, you can make a video. Like, it's easy to make a video these days. And with that being said, the thing about it is that the user, you guys, like, you can pick and choose to watch whatever you want to pick and choose and watch. Like, and that's a great thing. Like, the nice thing about YouTube is it all goes back to being user-friendly and being able to watch whatever you want on demand. Like, when I get on YouTube, I will search highly specific things. Like, I want to go watch some guy flipping mats. I'm going to go watch some guy flipping mats. You know, like, I have watched so many videos of guys that have 50 subscribers, 100 subscribers, that I'm just intrigued by it, because those are the videos. If I want to watch something super specific, that's what I go do. Now, with all that being said, the biggest thing that I have noticed recently with YouTube, especially because I'm a very analytical person. Like, I always was a big math science guy growing up, and I just like equations. I'm into analytics. I really eat that stuff up. And a couple of things that I've noticed within the YouTube world is that, you know, people get really fixated on certain formats within a YouTube channel. Like, people really like certain channels because they're always the same format. If they try different formats, then sometimes it actually ends up being a little bit off, which actually brings me to, why do I have two different channels? You know, BassFishingHQ has always been a channel that I put a lot of time into. Like, I put a lot of editing time behind the chair. Like, for those of you that don't know, I do 99% of the editing for BassFishingHQ. Like, and sometimes it takes a long, long time. Like, I have spent 50 hours editing single videos before, and done that on multiple videos. So it takes a lot of time to make these. And those are great and all, but the thing that, it didn't piss me off, but it frustrated me a little bit, because I would spend 10 or 15 hours making a video about subject A or B, and then I would see someone else make a video on that was a one-shot wonder. Literally, like this video. I'm sitting down, I'm talking for a certain period of time, I'm clicking on, I'm clicking off. That's the video. I would see other videos that were done in the same topic that were just like that. And I'm like, man, that person literally spent 10 minutes on that video and I spent 12 hours and they're getting about the same amount of views. And so I did try a few of these type of videos over on Bass Fishing HQ, and they did well, but it was a very different format. When you go from something that is very edited, you know, my main point with Bass Fishing HQ the HQ channel has always been to get to the point very quick. You know, I can remember watching 35 minute videos thinking like, man, this could be a 10-minute video. And that's what I've always tried to do over on Bass Fishing HQ, is make those longer videos a short video. Get you the juice that you want or need or desire and get you on your way. That's what I've always tried to do over there. And this channel is a little bit the same, but the thing about it is all these videos are those one-shot wonders. I click the thing on, I talk about something, and I click it off. Now, the thing about it too with this channel is that I can get a lot more specific with certain lures, certain techniques, certain ways of finding fish. I can get very, very specific with things because I truly do not care if this video gets 800 views or 100,000 views. Like, YouTube pays you based upon viewership, right? Like, you make more money if you get 100,000 views on a channel, on a video, than you do if you get 800. Like, you make substantially a lot more money. But on this channel, I don't really care about viewership. I care about the viewer. I care about you guys. I want to get really deep within certain things on this channel that I may not always do on Bass Fishing HQ, because there's certain things on Bass Fishing like there's certain things in the fishing realm that just aren't sexy. And so I tend to not do those things over on Bass Fishing HQ, but I will do those over here because, again, I just simply don't care. Now, if this video gets 100,000 views, that's awesome. But if it doesn't, that's also awesome. So that's kind of the biggest differences between the channels. Now, with that being said, I've had some comments before of a couple of guys that they say basically the same thing. Some guy yesterday was mad at me for every thumbnail being almost the same, where I'm pointing at a subject of some sort. Look, he was on that video, which means the thumbnail did its job. So that's the end of the real discussion. But also, like I said, it goes back to me not truly caring about how many views I get. I just want to create this community of people that just want to get deeper within their bass fishing. So that's why this channel exists. I also want to do that on Bass Fishing HQ, but I do try to make videos that I know will apply to the masses, if that makes sense, over on that channel. So those are what are the biggest differences over here. Also, this channel, like, I don't care as much about structure. I do try to make it where I'm like, hey, these are 2 tips, these are 3 tips. This is one big thing I want to talk about so that you guys have some structure. But I also will get on and make a video like this where I just kind of talk for 10, 15 minutes, whatever it may be. So when guys tell me like, man, you should structure this a little bit better, I get it, but I also don't necessarily care as long as I think that it can help you. Like, as long as I'm trying to bring you value, and as long as I feel like what I try to do is make it a conversation. Like, I always think about when I make these videos, if somebody was sitting in the chair right behind there and we were just talking about something, that is how I try to make these videos. Is like, dude, I found this out, or this is something that I did for the last 5 years that really helps me now because I made a change. Like, those are the type of things I try to bring up over on this channel. And that's why it's different. And it's why I do a similar YouTube thumbnail. So I didn't need to make this video, but I just felt like I might as well make it. You know, like, again, it is what it is. So anyways, let's get on to the one bass fishing tip that I have for you guys in this video, which is something that can apply to basically every lure out there. But when you are fishing and you are fishing a specific bait and that you start to not get caught, you start to stop getting fish, catching fish on that bait, think of what is the more subtle version of that exact same bait. So for example, all the time we fish baits like a chatterbait. A chatterbait is a very great bait. It comes through grass, it vibrates a lot, and you can catch a ton of fish on it. Now, if you're in an area and you have made a big pass through that area and you're kind of like fished what you needed to fish and caught some fish, and now that's kind of starting to slow up, Go back through that same area, but fish a bait that is a subtle version of that bait. Now, you could just sit down on your boat and just think about what's a subtle version of this bait. For example, a chatterbait, a subtle version of it, a swimming worm, right? A swimming worm does the exact same thing that a chatterbait does. It comes through the grass really well. It provides a little bit of a kick, but it's a lot less intrusive, a lot less loud than a bait like a chatterbait. And so that is an easy 1-2 punch with baits. You can apply this to literally almost every single lure out there. You know, like maybe you were flipping a jig in an area, and a jig is a big profile bait, typically, you know, 1/2 ounce, 5/8, 3/4 ounce jig. Instead of leaving that area that you know you just caught some fish in, circle back around and fish a more subtle version of that bait. Maybe it's either a finesse jig or maybe it's a Texas rig. Simply kind of going down to a bait that's going to get a lot more bites. Again, you can do this with anything. A crankbait. You know, I love fishing a crankbait. I've talked about this endlessly on this channel, but I can't tell you how many times I've fished through an area with a crankbait that has rattles in it, and all of a sudden I stop getting bit, I turn back around, I pick up a bait that doesn't have rattles in it. Again, a lot more subtle, and you start getting bit. So always think about what is the subtle version of this bait that I've been bit on, and how can I maximize the area that I'm fishing. So guys, I hope that clears some things up with you. I hope it's a good little tip for you guys, and I will see you guys probably tomorrow.